Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Ryan?
Very good. Good to see you. Thank you for making time.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.
Beautiful. Well, Sydney, thanks again for hosting today. My brother was out. We should all wish him well. He had some neck surgery, but he is back in the mend. And Sydney, thanks for filling in for us and giving us all the support. So I talked to amazing people like Brian today and talk about all the things around the metaverse and what it means for you guys at Meta, what it means for, oh, thanks, Sydney, means for the future. So I'll start off first off, just in case those who don't know Brian. Brian actually came from an amazing marketing background at Airbnb, Levi's, and the CMO Eventbrite. We'll jump right in. How did your prior experience in these places prepare you for the Meta Reality Labs?
Thank you, Ryan, first of all, for asking me to participate today, and hello to everyone out there that I can't see, but hopefully there's more than just a few of us here chatting. And to Brand Innovators. Okay, so like there's nothing that has prepared me for this job. Like, let's be super honest. The two really important things I think that I've brought with me, one is a really great community of marketers and brand leaders who I rely on often. And the other one is the fact that I truly love a journey that starts with zero planning, which is perfect because that's kind of what we're embarking on here. But I do have, I think more tactically and tangibly. Certainly, my experience at Apple when I led the marketing communications for iPhone and iPod. I learned a lot about how to bring new products, new categories to market in a way where, despite the fact that they did so much and so many things to really try to connect on, simple proposition when new is not just new, but potentially also very confusing. And then the second thing has just been where my passion and my work has been able to converge. I think that this is a really huge, important part of my life, which is believing in the potential of humanity when we can connect with each other. And I've been able to do that through Airbnb, through travel, and then also Eventbrite with just all kinds of experiences of coming together and certainly, both the hardware and then bringing people together. The mission of, at the time, Facebook was, is rooted in that. And so, it felt like a serendipitous opportunity to, to start a new journey with not a very clear roadmap.
Well, so you're an innovative marketer. You've been through the ringer across the board, from launching products to essentially overlooking teams. We'll get into actually Meta Reality Labs in a second, but just because you have such a perspective of not just being kind of like at one place forever, you obviously have been around a number of spots and seen the evolution of the space. From the rebrand, Facebook became Meta. It was, I will just personally say that whenever everyone has an opinion on it, it has, to me, driven hundreds of billions of dollars worth of interest and money into the space the moment that one of the biggest companies in the world is called Meta. And we've seen so much interest from brands and maybe even know that the metaverse was a thing until this rebrand happened. But I'd love to hear from your perspective what your thoughts were about it and really how it fits into Reality Labs.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad you noticed. That's awesome. Big part of the the goal of it. I mean, for me, what I loved about the process was, first of all, it was rooted in our mission. So our mission stayed the same, but we had a new vision, right, for the company that we needed to embark on. And so the fact that like any branding process that is rooted in those two things, for me, what comes through is authenticity, which is, I think, the most important thing. And to to your point, there are, and rightly so, like so many critics, skeptics, contributors, whatever they are, to the actual event. But when it is completely rooted in those two things, I think that authenticity is really important. And so that's what I really felt happened as we did this part. And we needed to signify a new chapter because we were becoming something so much more than just our past. Like, it's not that our past is left behind as being a social media company, but our vision for the future was so much greater. And this provided us an opportunity to signify that new chapter, and really signal that our intention of moving this direction was bigger than just a moment in time. It also, like, honestly, like, really helped to clarify a lot, because confusion between Facebook as a company, Facebook as an app, and so we think that there's benefit to consumers, partners, everyone, that we have that clarity. And then when I come back to authenticity part of it, Meta as the name that we land on, the cool part of it is that it really is rooted in meaning of beyond, and that unknown, and that what's come. Like, obviously there's a connection to Metaverse, just slightly, but it just had that beyond. And again, I think so as a brand that can sort of like signify potential, it was really strong. So I thought it was a really great process. It was, I mean, once in a lifetime opportunity as a marketer to participate in it, and really cool.
And specifically, obviously, I imagine that the executive and the board is very interested in what Meta Reality Labs is up to, among other things in the company. So tell everybody how this part, maybe whether it's the rebranding into how it goes the narrative of the reality Meta Reality Labs, because and also feel free to just explain what that is to the people that are listening. What does that mean? What do you guys touch, from different hardware to software, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So Meta Reality Labs has, like a lot of things, evolved into and continues to evolve into its sort of self. It started a long time ago as, XR, AR, VR, like really that innovation engine for the future of the company. Because while the branding is new, the strategic development is not something that just happened overnight. And so it had continued and, launched products from Oculus, Portal. We also, in partnership with Luxottica, launched the Ray-Ban Stories. So really, what are considered like access points or entry points into the metaverse, as well as now things like Horizon, which is the world's Horizon workrooms, and the ability to create within the metaverse. So what started as a this sort of like investment and innovation part of the company is now really central to the future of the vision for the company.
And obviously extremely exciting stuff for the outside world. I'm sure even more internally trying to figure out how to a lot of potential we see from the presentation that Mr. Zuckerberg and everyone else did around what can be used for applications. I'd love for you to what do you think the metaverse technically is something far off in the future, but today there's different parts of our lives that you guys make and other people make that are part of the initial building blocks of the metaverse. If you had to describe what the metaverse is today, not what it will be, do you have any kind of expectation of what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the root of it, like from our vision, right? Because of our mission, like it really is about the social experiences that are capable within the metaverse that we just don't have access today. And I think, if you think of the metaverse as really a set of like digital spaces, including 3D experiences that are very immersive, and those exist today within VR for sure, as well as like even immersive 2D experiences. And like, how do we take traditional things like screens and help them feel like there is greater social presence and greater social experience? And even with things like Portal that does that combination of video, sound, augmented reality really helps to bring in like the now of the metaverse, and access points to the metaverse. But it also becomes just a better version of online connection. Like it's not a replacement for in-person contact. I mean, in-person contact is so critical for humanity, and that's something I not only get to support as part of the company, but as a personal belief. So it doesn't replace that, but the time that we do spend online longing to sort of like fill that void when we can't, it becomes so much richer and better, and closer to the real things. And I think I was loving what Redima was saying at the end of her. I caught that it is that interoperability of the ecosystem where it's open and we can travel, across, through, and in these different worlds with the people that we want to connect with. That I think is exciting. So we're on a spectrum for the metaverse of not only the sort of like depth of experience from more traditional 2D screens to highly immersive VR to augmented in-world experiences, but we're also on that journey of each one being at sort of various phases. So there is the now aspect of the metaverse, and then certainly a lot of what we talk about and what Mark talked about at Connect is about the future potential.
Well, it's a great segue because ultimately, all of those things sound like the ethos makes sense. It's the interconnectivity, it's interoperability. From a technology perspective, what exactly is coming in the next couple of years? Do you think that are going to make the biggest, kind of foray into what we call, or assume is the Ready Player One metaverse type, fantasy scenario? I mean, is it the Oculus headsets? Is it I guess how do you picture or visualize? Is it more hardware? Is it more software? And both?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and right, like there is so much to build. So I think from hardware, which we really view as entry points or access points into the metaverse, right? And again, like that's not just the virtual reality access to the metaverse, but also the augmentation of the world around us, with the ability to use those elements from the metaverse. So I think certainly advancements in hardware, we'll continue to see innovations from us from Quest, from Portal, and Mark has not been shy to talk about the fact that we're really interested in bringing glasses, augmented reality glasses to life. So I think from that entry point, all of that is super exciting. As a consumer marketer, that part of me certainly gets a lot of energy from that. But there's also then the creators, right? Because this world doesn't exist, not in an interesting, compelling, and engaging way without creators. And so creators spanning from an individual who might be creating something for themselves or for their immediate cohort, through to artists, creators who are building objects or services, through to businesses and brands who want to have presence in the metaverse. And so I think a lot of really amazing tools and technology there to enable that. I mean, that for us is so core that this is not our metaverse, and there should not be any one company that you should not be beholden to a company's metaverse, right? Like this interoperability is critical. And then maybe the last place I'd just say is like digital commerce. So much to come in this space, both enabling people and creators to buy goods, services, and to sell as well.
Well, the breadth of opportunities in front of us is somewhat humbling, because all the things that can happen over the next 5-10 years. I want to double click on a couple of things you said. So let's start off with the first, creator. So influential, we're the largest influencer company by revenue in the space. We do thousands of campaigns per year. We see creators as, we put it into buckets of nano, micro, macro, mega, all across the board. So ours are people that are creating content on Instagram and Facebook, among other platforms, that are there to entertain, to be emotive, to be relatable, find some sort of connection to individuals. When you guys think of creators, is it that? Is it people that are good at designing, AR, VR filters? I guess, how do you guys kind of compartmentalize creators in your minds?
I think the answer is yes and, right? All of those sort of subsegments, and I certainly, I'm personally using the term creator in its broadest sense, meaning, again, it could be an individual who's creating an artifact or an object for themselves, and maybe it's from a utility perspective or just pure appreciation. That certainly is a creator in my mind. Through to businesses who are or developers who are doing it either for their own purpose or for on behalf of a business or brand. So when I'm using that, I'm probably taking liberties to talk about it in its broadest definition. But happy to talk about through any of those lenses.
Sure, and yeah, I guess it's everyone has kind of put this almost amount of pressure on the idea of what the metaverse will be, and we're already living in versions of it now. Even though Zoom technically is a digital self version of their old IRL meetings.
Yeah.
And the Web 2.0. Now we're getting to Web 3. The idea that the decentralization of it. I mean, what's happening with creators now? We have a number of creators that are essentially visual effects creators that are essentially making things that are not real, putting in there. We have influencers that are virtual avatars. Redeema referenced how they bought Brud, which is owns Little Michaela, which is one of the first influencers that kind of jumped in the space that weren't real. So I guess as you guys look through, because I want to state for you, is one of your jobs to basically as a group to inspire each type of vertical? You're going to find people that are more showmen or showwomen to say, hey, here's how I can use your technology. Others are going to be better at figuring out how to maneuver and manipulate worlds and code and things of that nature. So I guess is there divisions and organizations that are inside of your group that is looking at each kind of thing as its own kind of beast?
Yeah, I think certainly we see a few things like enablement of creators and developers is a huge part of our overall mission. Again, like Mark talked about it extensively at Connect, because it is so critical to what we believe, again, is going to be a rich, immersive, and fulfilling experience for the metaverse. And so I think there are those who there are going to be the creators who are instantly savvy at just getting in, getting hands-on and figuring it out. There's going to be, I think to your point, the whole transition of the world of creators today who are thinking about largely content on all of these different platforms, and how does that content turn into potentially experiences or worlds or objects or services in the metaverse, right? And so I think there'll also be both the education, tooling, and enablement of those audiences to create that transition. And then there's the core developers. That will either the existing developers that will either continue and sort of expand the surfaces or the technologies that they're building for today into the metaverse, or entirely new ones. You think about what the internet has brought for completely new economies that just didn't exist before. We definitely envision that that's what the metaverse will usher in that next era as well.
Yeah, the interconnectivity. I remember back in the 1999 or 2000 bubble, all the ideas of these big brands coming in and finding ways to or new companies come in, even Amazon. They'll never actually exist, and most fail. There's a bubble. Other ones thrive. What's changed in the last 20 years, in my POV, is that ability to essentially have frictionless ways to share both content but also capital. And this is actually a good segue into when you think about what the future looks like for the metaverse, or for just even your own division. How does monetization fit in? What are the things that are how important is monetization? How do you guys think about the different kind of verticals or kind of subsets of monetization that these creators of all kinds, we're going to have to basically make a living off of.
Yeah, I mean, monetization is critical. I mean, it's 100%. I mean, I think that that is a huge part of that enablement of creators, businesses, developers in, in the metaverse. And so, I think there's still so much unknown, but there are like certainly, a bunch of different models that I would say that are, everything from subscriptions to tipping to purchase to like, I think again, like these are all the areas that ads for free services or free, like all of these things are going to certainly uh, like be part of what gets explored and what gets offered up, and potentially even new ways that aren't even thought of yet. So I think that while there's like no specific roadmap that I can outline today, right here of exactly how we see this progressing and in which order and so forth, it is exciting to know that one, we are thinking about it and it is a massive priority for us, and two, that there's still potential, to figure out what comes.
Is there any, and it's okay if the answer is no, but is there any examples of things you've seen, whether it is subscription, whether it is maybe ad supported brand integration, things that have happened in the last few months or in the last year or so?
I still think it's like fairly early for some of those. I mean, there are really amazing examples of things like using augmented reality to bring people into trial, right? And so I think like that the commerce example of that ultimately brings us into more of like a traditional like Web 2.0 version of transaction, but the initiation of it starts from what would be more of like a today and now version of entry point into the metaverse, right? We did this with the launch of rebrand stories and introducing the ability to try the product on virtually. So I think that those cases are, Sephora, other brands I think have done a really great job of that as well.
So in this, I guess, does your division or department touch things like NFTs? I know you guys are more AR, VR, and we're describing kind of things, but do you guys touch kind of like the different kind of amalgams that come out of that?
It's not an area that I feel comfortable talking to be honest with you. So it's not, it's not the place where I spend my time. So I would probably, not venture down that path just because I don't think I could add very much.
Yeah. I know we've had some NFT whales on today. We had some people redeem obviously with Dapper Labs. So yeah, I was just curious because I mean,
watch those sessions.
Watch them. I watch the matches at work. I guess because I'm trying to think of like, it's because the next thing I want to talk about is AR and VR. I mean that's where the different kind of ways you can like lenses you guys can, brands have for years monetized by putting a new movie release or putting things out like a fashion based product in that world. I think almost as a, I apologize for being pedantic, anyone listening or any brands, but like, can you really outline between AR and VR, because they get grouped together and they're very, very different.
Yeah, so different. I mean, if you think of virtual reality as more of like a very intentional, immersive experience, right? You like physically need to put on a headset to experience virtual reality today. The amazing part of that is that sense of presence in it. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I love my Beat Saber and use it almost, do it almost every night. It's an awesome game for those who aren't aware of it that you can play within, within Quest, but and it goes to music, and also, by the way, you can burn a ton of calories. So if you're trying to kill a few birds with one stone, it's a really great experience, like I am. But some like Workrooms. So Workrooms is another product that we have that Horizon Workrooms. We announced it and launched it at Connect this past year in 21. One of the reasons why I love it so much is it's one of the most immersive experiences for that social presence. And so my team and I use it all the time because we actually feel like we're in the same room together. You have the audio and visualization, and you would, and well, I should say you would, but my perception would be is that going in as an avatar, that what that would do would actually like remove the realness of it so much that the social presence couldn't compensate for it. It's actually the exact opposite. Like the visualization of the avatar sort of disappears because of the fact that you are virtually in this same space together, and then you're collaborating. Like you're not just sitting there at the same desk talking, but you're at there's a virtual whiteboard. You still have, through mixed reality pass through, you can see your keyboard and have access to your computer. It's just, for me, like I think one of the most inspirational and kind of best manifestations of of the vision today. Whereas augmented reality really takes what exists in the world today and adds to it. So it's truly that in the definition of augmented reality, it adds to it. A lot of what we see today, which is really cool and fun, is augmenting through things like masks or experiences with who we are today. What I think becomes really exciting and much more future forward is like in-world augmentation. So whether you're using a device today like your phone and its camera to point out to the world, but that then is augmented by information, utility, games, that's really cool. Certainly when we all have access to that as a form factor on our face with glasses, which becomes a much more natural way to augment the world around us because we're not holding something up in front of us. I think that's just going to become even more exciting.
I was thinking about an application for this. So Brian brought an amazing new hire in Shahar Scott. She came from Bumble and is a good friend of ours. And I was thinking, like, when the glasses become available, and if someone is single, that might pop up with their stats, and you can basically have a world where that maybe a Bumble or one of those type of places are these the kind of things you guys are not specifically, but these are the kind of applications we're thinking about? How do you take that technology and apply it to maybe real world current kind of uses?
Yeah, I mean, I'll stay clear of the dating space and Bumble specifically, but without any judgment, but just that is like augmenting your real world to be more present in the real world and not interrupt the real world and truly make it better, either because you now know that someone you already know and care about is like 30 steps ahead of you, in real time, if that's, if they've shared that with you, or the brand and the item that you've been, trying to find is actually in this little boutique shop that you had no idea even existed. And so that level of discovery is really exciting. So yeah, I mean, I think that the in-world experiences, as we sort of grow beyond the augmentation of, sort of ourselves out into the augmentation of the world, they will see a lot, some really great utility, but also, for a deeper connection.
That's a huge concept. Like the idea that you could essentially put it's a super nerdy, but a Boolean search around your physical area around you to find things that are discovery-wise, you would never have done that. Even the website version, it's going to be much difficult to find. So that iteration is a huge kind of a movement forward for, like you said, the day-to-day stuff. I went on the Meta Reality Labs website and trying to do a little digging about things. I don't know if it's, to me, it sounds like I don't know if it's pronounced Novi or Novi, the wallet piece. That is a huge part of this. Is that it kind of goes back to the .com bubble. It's like, all right, well, is the metaverse thing a bubble? No, because it's now all interconnected. So is the Novi Wallet a big part in your minds for like how this all kind of connects in a monetization way to pay for things you want and have it kind of go in a frictionless way?
Yeah, I mean, so it really coming back to digital commerce. So yeah, so like as a company, in totality, digital commerce is going to be a huge part of this. And there are different parts of the organization, those that exist today, new ones popping up that are working on this. So yeah, I mean, we the ability to both, transact and, and carry what you own with you throughout the metaverse is just, a critical component to all of this.
Love it. Well, I know we're in questions time. This is the last
Cool.
9 minutes. Start off with just advice. We're getting people that are hitting us up on chats, and I think the first one is, how can these marketers that are tuned in today, how can they get started? What advice do you have for brands looking to dive into a new space?
Yeah, I mean, Rudima said this as well. I think experimentation, because and this is the part that I love about my job as well, is this is new for all of us. And so, I mentioned the fact that while not, first to market, but, using things like AR filters with, fashion and Ray-Ban stories is something that, we experimented both from a brand perspective, from an engagement perspective, from a conversion perspective. So trialing with that, we're launching a new campaign in a few weeks. Hopefully you'll all see it, but we think it's one of the first ads that you can actually then experience in the metaverse as well. And so, we're investing in that. So my two things would be if you don't do it already, definitely carve out time, space, budget for innovation with, your OKR, KPI, whatever being discovery and just figuring it out. The second thing would be get hands-on. I remember you were talking about 99, 2000. I was going to pretend like I wasn't around them, but I was. And so, we all saw, I think, younger versions of ourselves interacting with either clients or bosses or whoever who are so disconnected from the web, from then mobile. And it seemed like the smallest things were a huge sell-in. And it was because they were only getting it through a presentation. So I would say, look, of course I want you to buy, Meta products, but Quest, Ray-Ban stories, try the products, get into it and explore and then test.
And I have to ask follow-up, because you mentioned that you guys are doing some stuff in the next few weeks. So, obviously, you're in the Meta reality, but you're heading up the marketing portion of it. Is this very Meta? Do you advertise on Meta, or do you go across the board? I guess, how do you think about marketing this going forward?
Absolutely. Certainly, our advertising platforms are, unbeatable. And we think of as a marketer, a full funnel marketing. And so we partner with creators. So, not only in traditional of our advertising products that we have, but also we work really deeply with creators across Instagram, across Facebook, to also bring our products to market. And then, certainly use a lot of other media, including, television, out of home, things like that.
Love it. Well, another actually very poignant question came over from a man named John. That's good. It's good. So just as you look at, kind of the next 10 years, of the metaverse, and obviously it comes to fruition, can you give us the thoughts on how we build the metaverse into an inclusive place, and how it can be a tool for social justice and equality? So obviously the kind of the ethos and the thought for the future here.
This is not only poignant, but a bit of a layup for me, because I care. This is at the core of me as a person, as an individual. So I grew up in Flint, Michigan, gay kid, didn't have lots of great friends there. Did not feel like I always belonged. And in a lot of parts of the world, or organizations, even jobs I've had where that sense of belonging just wasn't there. And there wasn't an appreciation for then the diversity or what I could bring to the table because of who I am, not only like whether I belong there. And so this is a critical part of what we think about, and I think we've certainly as a company, as as the chapter of like being primarily social media company, we also have a lot of experience and learnings from this that we get to bring into our next chapter as well and what we build. I don't think that for anyone, I still think like it's going to be hard because it's not just about technology, it's about society as well. But this is from everything to our product development process through to how we bring and who we market to. We are very conscious and dedicated to this area. So John, thank you for asking who and wherever you are.
It's great to obviously resonate with you personally, and obviously as a unit and as an overall company. I think I think the last couple of years you've seen it. Hopefully it's all genuine, but the brands and the consumers and everyone else come together with you. So you would hope that equality is now standard. It probably isn't, but it should be. What it has not been the case is equity. Even into this, like even for the next few years, equity will not be equitable until a number of things happen. And fortunately, we've seen billions and billions of dollars come in from both big brands, from the social platforms, from the hold companies to put X percentage of their spend towards multicultural creators, diverse creators. We're also seeing it on our campaigns. There's some interesting stats which all apply essentially to the social platforms and eventually will be the metaverse. We're seeing 91% of our campaigns are diverse, have at least some diverse creators in it. 50% are majority diverse, which is a big far cry from even a year, 2 years ago. And then we're actually seeing about 20% of our campaigns being exclusively diverse. So I think that it's moving in the right direction. And really, I think it's because of the democratization of these social platforms, of what the metaverse will eventually be. You're now going to have creators of all diverse backgrounds able to monetize and essentially be paid for the work they do. So I think you guys are obviously setting the groundwork for what will be the biggest economy boost in the history of mankind. So we are hopefully along for the ride and doing what we can on our part. But thank you so much for building this up together.
That's awesome. No, and likewise, I think coming back to that earlier point, fundamentally, both as a company and then me as an individual, believe that the metaverse will be great because everyone builds it. And so, I guess like a bit of a plea off of this theme, that John surfaced back to this group who is going to be leaders of, or are going to be leaders of building the metaverse through brands, and knowing that brand leaders and marketers are often the ones who are championing diversity, equity, inclusion, is to hire, retain, grow, so that those perspectives are embedded from the very beginning and not something that are bolted on later in the process. So I'm here for it. So yeah.
Love it.